All right, here we are. The last 6 years, we have spent enough money on legal stuff to buy a small island. Not something I'm particularly proud of, again, but, you know, I'm proud to protect my brand any which way. Unfortunately, a lot of the times it's not been me protecting my brand, it's actually been me defending myself. So in this video right now, I want to not only go over all the ways you can protect yourself, but I also want to go all the ways you can actually, position yourself to protect your content and then actually go after people yourself. And I want to provide you with sample files and links and a lot of resources. So have some notes, copy and paste some of these links, because if you're going to do anything online, you're going to need some of these resources. Basically, you can take the enormous amount of cash that I've wasted on legal stuff and apply it and use it to your benefit. So let's get started. So my first, ever incident with legal stuff really was going on about 5.5, almost 6 years ago now. I had a user-generated content site and that's any time that a user basically generates content and uploads it to your website. Obviously, when that scales out and you're getting a ton of traffic, it's very hard for you to be able to choose like which things are copyrighted, which things aren't, and stuff like that. So basically they made what's called DMCA, or Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which basically gives you safe harbor to have the content and to host the content as the content provider, and it gives you enough time to remove the content and act in good faith. So basically, being that we had a lot of mobile content or ringtone stuff, we went through an enormous amount of stuff with this. So I don't want to totally digress into stories and stuff like that, but I want to actually get into how this can help you. Number one, if you're going to host any sort of user-generated content, you want to register yourself with the DMCA. There's a whole registry list there. You want to register yourself, and then you also want to have a DMCA notice on the bottom of your website, or something that's very, very easy to be found on your website, okay? Number two, you definitely want to have a privacy policy. Now, this is basically something that's saying what you're doing with users' data. We've supplied an example one below, and the same thing with the terms and conditions. And this is basically all the terms and conditions of whatever your people are signing up to do or whatever they're doing. You want to clearly state what your terms and conditions are. You also want to have an earnings disclaimer if you're stating any sort of earnings or anything like that, to basically protect you, so that if you, for whatever reason, if somebody buys your product and doesn't do anything and then reports it to the FTC and they come after you and they say, well, you promised people that, they would make $1 million in 24 hours and blah, blah, blah. And so you basically want to have a clear earnings disclaimer letting people know, that results, typically, a lot of people don't make a lot of money online. Just typically they don't. So, you want to be very upfront and honest about what people can expect to earn. Okay? So let's move forward with that. Now, those are ways you can protect yourself. We've provided these example things that we use ourselves. We are not lawyers. However, these were prepared by our lawyer. But I would highly recommend, we've kind of dumb them down and generic them down so that they'll apply to virtually anyone. So while they're probably okay, my lawyers are going to hate when I say that. So let me just say, please have a lawyer review any of this stuff before you do it, because I don't want to see you get in trouble, okay? So that's how to protect yourself. Now, I've been to court in federal court against Nextel and won. I've defended myself in over 25 different cases in the last 6 years. Sounds pretty crazy, right? But you know what? If you are going to do business on a national level and you're going to do any sort of volume, it's the cost of doing business. So you have to get yourself you have to prepare for success. And that's just a matter of implementing these little legal things. It's just the cost of doing business. If you're not generating that much revenue, you might just want to put these policies in place right now, and then later on have a lawyer go over them once you have enough money for that as your success grows. So let's move on to actually a subject that's actually more attractive, which is actually how to protect your own content and actually go after people. Number one is there's trademarks and copyrights, okay? So trademarks are things like your domain name and your name. And those are when you see the little TM, and stuff like that. And then when you actually register a trademark, then you can actually use the little registered symbol. Now, benefits of actually registering your trademark, like when we registered Shoe Money, then that makes it so that, nobody can really use it in the title of their web page. They can't use it here and there. They can't use it on pay-per-click engines. Basically, you submit your copyright that you filed to the actual pay-per-click engine, and now nobody can actually use Shoe Money in their ad copy. If you actually search for Shoe Money, you'll see people use it with a space and other things like that, but nobody's actually using Shoe Money as the full word. Somebody was doing that, but there was legal action taken against them. So that's a case you can actually look up. Number two, copyright. Now, while most copyright is implied, you do need to actually kind of state under which license your content falls under. There's several different ones, and we're going to point you to a site that actually defines what each one of those are. So, a lot of times people will let people reuse their stuff for non-commercial use, or use it for anything they want, or use it, they have to actually can't use it at all. So let's talk about, you find somebody who's using your stuff. Let's say you've just found out, in my case, let's talk worst case scenario. I've built a brand with Shoe Money over the last 6 years. We've been covered by the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, everyone, blah, blah, blah. We've been in, I've been with Barbara Walters on 2020. So, we've built a brand of trust with users. So a lot of times people will take my image to promote their site. Well, that basically, my worst nightmare is somebody using that image to promote a product. That is something I would never want one of my users to sign up for, because I don't like what it is. So I'll just show you a recent one that we actually recently just took to task. This person was using my face and actually a picture of me holding up a check to actually promote a fake news site, which was misleading the user to sign up for this continuity thing. So we basically, now I'm going to walk you through all the steps that we actually do. Initially, so when you locate the actual content, the first part is basically you send a threatening email. And this basically, because you don't really have any money involved, because what you do is you're going to look up the website and it's going to be registered to an anonymous person. Trust me, nobody ever is going to put their name on some scammy thing that's stolen your content. If they did, then great, then you can send them the email. But even if they didn't, even if it's a domain by proxy kind of thing, you can still send an email to that anonymous actual email that they're going to give you. Okay? So then what you do, you send the threatening email, and I'm actually going to give you a copy of the email that I actually send out that actually works really, really well for me. And yes, that's risky for me to do, but I'm going to do that for you. Okay? So I'm going to have a copy of that below for you. It's going to be one of the other downloadable pieces. Then, of course, they're not going to respond. So by that time, now there's several different things here. So basically their website, they're making money, right? So they're using an affiliate company. Affiliate company, they have a web host, and they have a domain register. My handwriting is atrocious, I apologize. And this is mostly just bullet points. So basically, while they're Mr. Anonymous hiding in the freaking woods, I hate anonymous weasels on the internet. Anyway, so these people are not, and they're very accessible. What you can do legally is you can subpoena info. So basically you can file a subpoena, and I don't even think I spelled that right, but that doesn't matter. So you can actually file a subpoena against each of these to release their information. And I'll tell you right now, we've actually subpoenaed information from Twitter, from eBay, from from Google, from affiliate companies, from web hosts, and from GoDaddy, and from plenty of other places. And every time they've cooperated, they've turned over the person's information. Hell, we even did one with Earthlink. We had some stalker on our blog, which is a whole nother story, but basically who was making threats to my children and me and blah, blah, blah. But basically we basically were able to, I mean, these companies, you get a subpoena to do that. Now, how do you get a subpoena? Well, the easiest way is to go to an attorney and to have them go before a judge and get it. It's a very, very easy process for an attorney to do. You can, I've heard, do it yourself. I have no experience in doing it yourself, but I'll tell you that for us to do this, it cost me about $1,000 per to do this, okay? So for this subpoena, so for this process, and we usually subpoena every source. So you're talking about $3,000 to subpoena each of these sources, okay? Basically, that's what they charge. You could find cheaper ways to do it, but you may not get the results. We get great results because our law firm is a very good nationally recognized law firm. And so when people see these subpoenas come in, they know they need to respond to them because it's a legitimate thing. Whereas if you're Billy Bob filing a subpoena, you might not get very far. So it's also good to subpoena multiple companies, especially if you're subpoena a dial-up provider or an ISP, because they can make mistakes. We've actually had, like sometimes questionable data come back because, they've got millions, like AOL has, 25 million, people. Earthlink has, millions of people. So for them to actually give you the correct person who had that IP address at that time is very, very difficult. Okay, next thing. So now you've got the person's info by this point. So now we've actually got the thing, and let's say his name is Billy Bob. We'll just say Billy Bob. That's a good name. Billy Bob Johnson. And he's Johnson. Jeez, what's wrong with me today? Okay, Billy Bob Johnson, and he's at 222 West 9th Street. Beverly Hills, 90210. Okay, so we now have his information. We usually also get his phone number and all that stuff. So we also have his email address and his home address and blah, obviously. So now, the problem is that we've racked up $3,000 in hard costs, plus probably, an hour of our attorney's time, plus the paralegal's time. So by the time we get to this process of actually finding out who this weasel is, we've got $5,000 in our expenses, okay? Now that's not cool. So now this threatening email is sent again, but instead of just, hey, please take down our stuff, it now says, basically take down our stuff and we'll determine a settlement amount. That settlement amount is going to be probably somewhere around $7,500 at this point to let them out of this case. So why $7,500? Well, one, they're using, and maybe we should talk about statutes for a second. So if you have anything worth copywriting, you want to file it with the USPTO, okay? And I'm gonna have a link for you to do that. We have our attorneys do it, but basically then it honestly can be done in like 10 days. It's so fast. So if you have an image that you wanna protect, once you file it and it's a registered copyright, then you have statutory protection, okay? And with statutory protection, so let's say it's regular copyright, and let's say Billy Bob Johnson stole my image, and he's, using it everywhere that I don't like. And so basically all I can go after him for is basically what he made from it and any damages I can prove, which are very, very hard to prove, okay? Now, the other part of that is if you actually register the actual thing. Then you've got statutory damages. Now, statutory damages is a totally different thing, and it's awesome because you can collect $100 and some thousand per infringement of your registered thing, plus damages, right, which are hard to prove. Plus, you can get back your attorney's fees, but you should consult with an attorney on that too, because I'm a little fuzzy. But I know, I mean, through all the cases we've been through, it's worked out really well for us. All right, so I register. This is a registered thing. So why $7,500, right? Well, we're $5,000 in, and let's be honest, lawyers are going to probably, by the time you are negotiating this $5,000 with Billy Bob's lawyers and your lawyers, this is not, even if you negotiate $5,000, because that's exactly what you have into it, you're going to break even. You're not going to make any money. I mean, we don't sue to make money. We sue to get this freaking jackass to stop using our content, right? So what we do is basically $7,500 should cover us, because there's going to be a lot of back and forth. They're going to want us to like issue some sort of statement or like some sort of non-disclosure or enter into this thing, and my lawyers are going to want to argue back and say this, no, we want to do this. And meanwhile, you know what's happening? Boom, boom, boom. It's racking up money for you. So that's why we go about 25% more, 20% more. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So now, next phase, Billy Bob gets this $7,500 bill, and he's like, what? I'm not paying you $7,500. Because why would I pay you $7,500? You sent me a thing just the other day asking me to take it down for free, and you wouldn't do anything to me. And even though I didn't answer it, you should now charge me $7,500. Well, he doesn't understand that now you've incurred all these costs in doing this stuff. So then basically you send him one final notice and say, listen, jerky, I want this money this is my cost. I want it by X date, or we're playing the feud. We're going to court. So, and I'm telling you that out of all the times this has happened to me, we've filed suit probably 75% of the time. Rarely does somebody give in at this point because they don't think you'll file suit, okay? So, so basically what we do at that point is then we file suit against Billy Bob, and we do it in the District of Nebraska, okay? So then we bring Billy Bob and we bring him to Nebraska federal court, and we bring a lawsuit and all that stuff. Now these costs just went straight up the window. So now this settlement amount of $7,500 is now a minimum of probably, because now you're looking at a long process. Basically, it starts out, the first thing Billy Bob's going to do, if he has good counsel, is they're going to file for dismissal based on jurisdiction, okay? Because we're in Nebraska, he's going to say, you don't have jurisdiction over me, so basically, I'm going to file for dismissal of this case, and the judge needs to dismiss it. And basically, his attorney, now I'm going to tell you, in all the cases we've ever done, we are undefeated in jurisdiction cases. Even though they're kind of hard to prove, and I'm going to tell you, this is going to kind of hurt me to tell you this legally probably going forward, but if you notice, when you go to shoemoney.com, there is, up in the top right, it says, Lincoln, Nebraska. There's a reason it says that, okay? And it's because a lot of times you want people to know where you're from, because guess what? You want clearly people to know where you're at, because when you sue them, you want to bring them to your backyard, right? You don't want to go to their backyard because it's going to cost you an enormous amount more money when you actually do sue somebody. So how do you do that? Because basically to prove and to win jurisdiction in court, you have to prove, one, they knew who you were. I'm sorry, no, you don't have to do that. You have to prove, one, that they knew that you were a resident of the state, and two, that they were targeting people in that state. Well, if you've got a site, for one, if they're using your shit, they've been to your site, right? So if you have from Lincoln, Nebraska everywhere on your site, it would be hard for them to say that they didn't know that you're from Lincoln, Nebraska. Problem one, out the window. Next, you've got to prove that they were targeting citizens in Nebraska. Well, just from their own, you can subpoena their web logs, and you can see if people from Nebraska are going to their website. Problem two, solved, slam dunk. This motion, denied. We've never lost a jurisdiction case, okay? So that's a huge takeaway for you. On your website, you need to stay at the bottom, at the top, whatever, where you're located and all that stuff, because when you go after people, you want to make sure that you win jurisdiction stuff. So, but this jurisdiction thing, guess what? That's going to add another, God, if there's motions and all that stuff, you're talking maybe $50,000 to $75,000. It's expensive to go through legal stuff. Okay, so now to settle, now if this jackass Billy Bob, sorry I almost fell, if this jackass Billy Bob over here who could have got off for free, now he's looking at $100,000 to settle right now, okay? So, once people lose jurisdiction, that's usually when they realize, because I'm going to tell you right now, whatever you're spending in state, they're probably spending 3 to 4 times more, if not more money, because they're defending themselves out of state. All right? So, and also keep in mind that now this number for settling is becoming more attractive to them. Now, okay, so why do we progress this far? Let's stop right there for a second, because we went from free, he could have got off free, to he could have got off for $7,500, to he could have got off for $25,000, to $50,000, to now it's like $100,000. So why didn't he just get off? Well, he was kind of playing pot odds because he was making so much money using our stuff or whatever, or he just figured, screw it. Well, because the actual losses under statutes, $100 and some thousand that, just under statute alone, because he's clearly wrong using our image, right? So slam dunk, boom, 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 we win the statute. We get $100 and some thousand per infringement. And then boom, 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 we get our attorney's fees, right? Boom. So, and then we get damages, plus we get earnings from our images, right? So you're talking probably 200 to who knows how much he made from it, but just from, because now we have this much in legal fees, right? So legal fees plus statutes plus whatever, let's just say it's $500,000 on the low end, okay? That's what this guy is facing to lose. So now this number is coming closer to this number, all right? And this is our number. So his number plus his legal fees is probably right about now is about $300,000. So the more this number matches up with this, the more he wants to settle. So now usually the guy who is like, screw you, I'm not settling, I'm fighting the good fight, now is starting to realize, okay, I screwed up, let's work this out. So as soon as they lose jurisdiction, because now you're actually going to court, and they're coming to Nebraska. Nebraska's a lovely state, but people don't like to come here when we go to court. So by this time, usually they're like, how much do you want to settle for? And honestly, we're not in business to make money from settlements. So usually, again, we kind of use the same formula that we always used. We usually do about 25% of whatever we're in this for, because we want to get out of this thing. I mean, this thing, I would say more than money, the biggest cost to us in this is just that it's a giant distraction. And honestly, like, I'm the one who has to be involved in this constantly, because as smart as our lawyers are, a lot of times they don't understand what a lot of this stuff is because it's so new, but they are freaking kick-ass. We have never lost a case on either side. We've never lost a motion, a hearing, anything. They are freaking badass. And part of that is because, to be honest, is because I've helped facilitate and educate them on how exactly things work and stuff like that. So that's how to get this far. Basically, once you're this far, you're either going to court or you're not. So I just wanted to get you this far because I would say probably 90, we've only had one case out of geez, probably 40 go any farther than this. But most of them go this far to jurisdiction because they all think they're going to get out of jurisdiction. But once we win, and that's it. So then they realize they're in for the long haul. So all of them settle around this point, and that's it. So in this video, I hope we've communicated a lot of things. If you have other questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I just wanted to take you through the processes and the thought processes, because a lot of people think that, people think that they can't go after somebody who's anonymous and blah, blah, blah. You definitely can. And you can do it a lot cheaper than what I've laid out. This is just my experience. People know I like to teach from actually my experience, and because I don't want to feed people any bullshit that's not true. So this is actually what we go through and the actual realistic cost that we go through. And actually, some realistic stuff that could be expected from some of the stuff that we settle for. So I wanted you to get this. I think there's some great takeaways for you here. We've also included a lot of downloads for you so that you can protect yourself, with privacy policies, terms and conditions, earnings disclaimers. I'm going to send you my scary email that you can initially send people. And you should actually send that to every contact you can find when somebody's using your stuff. So we're going to give you a lot of great downloads and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, ask in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you soon.